Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel, and this is our final video for 2023, so stay tuned, guys. That is correct. This is our final video. This is the final week of 2023, and what a year it has been. I have had such a fun year. Tons of different places I have visited, places I've never been to, other places I have been to but never explored them like I did. And in today's video, we're going to do a little bit of a recap of the year. I've got some top campsites, top trails, things like that, some of the mods that I've done. And I just wanted to go over it, guys, because I thought it would be really fun to do, because it has been such a huge year that I have done so many things, and to just have a nice little recap is going to be awesome. So to start off, let's start with all the different trails and states that I have been to in 2023. Now, yes, I have my notes. It's going to keep me on track here. But it has been huge. So as you guys know, just over a year ago, I moved back to the mainland from the Hawaiian Islands. I lived out there for 5 years and had an absolute blast of a time. But when I moved back to the US, it was like the floodgates were open. I had the ability to go all over the country to wheel, and basically there were no limitations. The world was kind of just open to wherever I wanted to go within the United States. Now, I didn't travel very far east at all, but I traveled all over the West. I have been through New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, California. I have been to all these different states and have wheeled in all these states, and it has been awesome. And we started off basically the beginning of the year with wheeling in New Mexico. That was the first time that I've really ever just hung out in New Mexico. I never really went there when I was younger. I just always drove through it. Now that my dad and my mom live down there, it was really cool to actually go down there and hang out and explore. It is extremely beautiful. And I was in the Gila National Forest, as you guys will remember, and we had done a few things to the Jeep, and I was down there literally with the intention of just wheeling and having a good time. And we did. We got the Jeep into some back little tiny trails that were more or less designed for side-by-sides, and we shoved the Jeep in there, and it was a lot of fun. Now, not all the trails were successful. I remember one of the days it didn't matter where we went, we couldn't find a trail that actually continued. It always dead-ended or faded away, or it wasn't wide enough to get the Jeep through. And it was a lot of fun. And then it went over to Moab, and this year was the first year I've ever been to Moab. I had always read about it. I have seen different YouTube videos on Moab, other people wheeling, heard so many amazing stories from people, and I was so excited to go. And what a great way to start it off was I went for Easter Jeep Safari. That was my first introduction to Moab, first introduction to wheeling on those trails out there, and it was a lot of fun. Now, as you guys will remember, I loaded up the Jeep, and at the time, the Jeep was in its stock form. It was dead stock completely, and I just loaded everything in the totes, threw it in the Jeep, and went. And honestly, it was a little hectic when I was out there. I had not just at camp, pulling out all the totes and doing things like that, but having not wheeled out there before or known just how many trails were out there, because all the time when I read about it, it was just the big name trails. Didn't know about the little ones. So going out there, I didn't really have too much of a game plan. I had a wheeling set up with the Easter Jeep Safari, event and things like that, but I had not wheeled out there. So it was a little bit of just kind of wandering aimlessly about. But it was a lot of fun. And it gave me that itch to want to go back when I left. Now, I will say, I have been back to Moab this year about 10 times since then. It is just a place that draws me there. And living here in Colorado, Moab, literally from my house to the middle of Moab, is 5 hours away. So it's not like it is excruciatingly difficult to get there or a super long drive. but I had a lot of fun there. Then I went down to Arizona and wheeled on trails that I had never wheeled on before. I grew up in Arizona, lived there for almost 20-something years, and some of these trails that I hit, I never actually did before. I had never really wheeled in the northern part of the valley, so being able to wheel up there, I went to Flagstaff. It was so beautiful. Absolutely love Flagstaff. That is my happy place. And just got to camp underneath the stars, listening to the frogs and everything. It was so much fun. But that trip led me into my Southern California trip. You guys will remember I went down to San Diego, visited some family, and went and checked out the Anza Borrego Desert. And it was really awesome. Now, I barely touched on a very, very tiny percentage of the trails out there, guys. There are so many trails out there, and you can just, you can choose one and it'll go for a long period of time. And I took the one that took me out to Sandstone Canyon, and it was gorgeous. And I went to tackle Diablo Drop-Off. Wasn't able to, just because you guys might remember there was a Tacoma that got stuck trying to go up Diablo Drop-Off and got himself wedged. They had no recovery gear. The sand was so soft, he got his rear diff stuck behind a rock, and we couldn't pull him up. It was a whole fiasco. So I wasn't able to accomplish that, but it was so beautiful out there. And then I went from there up to Joshua Tree National Forest, and it was a different planet altogether. It was gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. Just the Joshua trees towering over everything, trails leading off in all sorts of different directions. And as you guys know, I didn't take the normal way into the park. I went the back way into the park. So just being able to traverse through this tiny little narrow road that kind of just, well, it wasn't a road, it was a trail that cut through between the mountains, and you just made a turn and you popped up once you were up at the top, and you just overlooked all of Joshua Tree. It was gorgeous. And then I hit the Mojave Desert. Now, I didn't do much wheeling in the Mojave at that time because it was the beginning of summer. Temperatures were still warm, and also I had that massive dust storm that chased me from Joshua Tree through the Mojave Desert. So I wasn't able to wheel there, but it made me realize just how much I want to, and that I have some trails, and the Mojave Road is one of those that is on my bucket list to accomplish. And it was so gorgeous because there's tons of Joshua trees out there too, guys, and like their trails just go endlessly for miles in all different directions. It would be awesome to go and wheel there. Now, as you guys can kind of tell, I'm kind of squinting a bit. That sun was hiding behind a cloud. It has come out. It is a gorgeous day here in Colorado. This whole past weekend, it has been snowing like crazy. But I don't know, that sun moved. Now it's right in my eyes. And then I wheeled all over Colorado. That I have done, I don't know, countless day trips up into the Rockies, wheeled a trail, came home. I did my 4-day-long adventure with my dad, hitting a lot of the passes, Cinnamon, Engineer, Monarch, ending in Moab and having some fun out there, and then coming back. I've been all over the state of Colorado, and I haven't even hit half the trails. There are so many trails out here, guys, and it is probably going to take me a couple of years to knock them all down because I don't just stay here, I go so many other places. But it has been so much fun, and this whole year, I've been to 5 different states to go wheeling in and had countless amazing adventures. I have the best job in the world. Now, throughout the course of this year, not only have I been out wheeling, I've also been upgrading and modifying the Jeep. As you guys know, it was in stock form. The only things I had changed on the Jeep was I had installed my winch when I first got here, and I installed my bumper lights, my KC lights on the bumper. That was it. Those were the only real modifications to the Jeep. I had done some interior ones, such as I installed the JL Taser Mini. That was a blessing in disguise. I installed a throttle control, which has come in very useful, and I have tested countless other products, but I never did any real huge modifications to the Jeep. until recently. And the reason is for the whole year of 2023, I wanted to wheel the Jeep in its stock form, to learn the Jeep, understand the Jeep, and to know what it's like in its stock form on the trails. And guys, a stock Jeep can go a crap ton of places. Don't get me wrong, can't go every place, but you can go quite a few different places and be able to wheel. Because I learned over the course of this year what the Jeep was capable in its stock form. Now the Jeep is transformed. As you guys will know, one of the first big modifications I did to the Jeep was I installed my platform system and kitchen setup. Like I said earlier, I was toting around totes like crazy in the back of the Jeep, and it would be packed to the top, and I couldn't see out the back window. And I get to camp, pull everything out of the Jeep, go through everything, set it up, put it all back in, reorganize it, shove it back into the Jeep, and it worked. Honestly, guys, it did work. The system worked great. I was able to handle it all. And I kind of learned what I needed to do. And as you guys know, I built my own platform system and kitchen setup because I wanted it tailored to myself. And I did it for literally a fraction of the cost. A lot cheaper. And that was awesome. Because now when I go out on my trips, I don't have the Jeep shoved full of things. They all have a place that they go. I don't take a tote anymore. Everything is there. And it just made life at camp and on the road so much simpler. Because things live permanently in the Jeep now and they have a permanent home. It's not in a tote that I had to take in and out. It's permanently there and it's awesome. Then the next big modification was my wheels and tires. With some Method bead grip wheels, and I also went with the Milestar Patagonia MTO2 tires to go on those wheels. I love these combinations. It is a 35, so I went from a 33 to a 35, so I got a bigger tire, which helped give me just a little bit more ground clearance, not a lot, but a little bit, in its stock form. And the tires have been working absolutely fantastic. I have dropped them into the single digits and I've not had to worry about slipping the bead at all. They just work. I have scraped up the rims on some of the rocks. I kind of did it on my first trip with them on Red Cone. It's all right. They're built tough and they took a hit and they still look fine and they are working. I absolutely love these tires, guys. On road, off road, they just have been working great and the tread's been wearing very, very nicely. And then the biggest modification I have done to the Jeep that you guys have seen in the last few weeks, because I have done it in this month, was I lifted the Jeep 3.5 inches with a TerraFlex street trail lift kit. And like I said, that lift was actually pretty simple to do. It took me about 15 hours, and guys, the Jeep has so much more clearance on the body now that it is up there, and it looks so much better. And I am very excited to see just how, just what its new limits are. To test it, take it out there and test it in this new form. It's going to be awesome to see. But the Jeep has come such a long way from its stock form, from looking like just any other Jeep to its lovely modifications to, it looks like it does now, to where it has all been kind of tailored to me. I didn't just take an idea from somebody else. I drove my Jeep, learned what I needed, saw what I wanted to do to it, had ideas, tried to see if those ideas would work or not, and have built the Jeep to where it is. Now, don't get me wrong, I have a few more upgrades coming to the Jeep next year. In January, we have some other things that we are adding to the Jeep. I'm not going to spoil it yet, but we have a couple more things that are getting added to the Jeep. I have them. They're in New Mexico, sitting there, and I need to install them. And I have them there because I need help installing them. That makes sense. So, yeah. But this next year in 2024, I can't wait to put the Jeep in, push the Jeep in its new limits, see where they are, and just have such a nicer time at camp. The things that I have added that haven't come onto the Jeep yet are going to make life at camp so much more easy. It's easy now, but it's going to become even easier. I'm excited. Let's go through a few of my top 3 picks from the entire year. So we have ratings for my top 3 trails, my top 3 campsites, and my top 3 views. that I've experienced. And now this wasn't easy to narrow down at all. The campsites were a little bit easier to narrow down because there was one that took the cake out of all of them. That was super simple for me. But I've been on so many cool trails and been to so many amazing places and views. It was really hard to narrow it down. But I think I've done a pretty good job at narrowing it down. So let's go with my top 3 trails for the year. And I'm going to start from the bottom and go from number 3 to number 1. So number 3 would have been that first trail that I did in New Mexico in, was it February or March, in the Gila National Forest with my dad. When we got the Jeep just shoved back into those washes, we just kept hitting wash, kept going places that the Jeep probably should never have fit, and we just had a fun time. It was my first wheeling trip with Dad, and we were just laughing the whole time and just getting ourselves tucked back in there and seeing things that, honestly, I'd never seen before. Never knew New Mexico had it. I just always thought New Mexico was a bunch of red dirt and I-40. Because that's all I ever had experienced. And it is literally the land of enchantment out there. It was awesome. But that was my 3rd favorite trail. My 2nd favorite trail was Chicken Corners. Now you're probably thinking, there's so many awesome trails out in Moab. How can you just choose Chicken Corners? This is why. Chicken Corners was beautiful. I had no idea what to expect. I had watched a YouTube video on it, decided that would be fun to do. It was my first time out in Moab, and I knew the Jeep could handle it in the stock form. So I went out there. Had no idea what to expect. Getting out into the canyon and seeing over the edge and driving right along it, and just the trail wasn't overly crowded, and you just keep going. It was beautiful, guys. And you end out there, and there's a rock that looks like a chicken. And then you just have this awesome view of the river down below and just the canyons and the rocks. Oh, guys, it was beautiful out there. Absolutely gorgeous. And it just blew me away. I've been on some really pretty trails out in Moab, and there are some other ones I really like, but that one still takes the cake for me. It is still my favorite trail out there in Moab. And it wasn't the first trail I did out there, but it was, in the first experience of being out there, that was awesome, and I absolutely loved it. And finally, the trail that I liked the absolute most, that took my breath away completely and will always sit in my head, is Engineer Pass. Guys, I went out there with my dad. We had such a fun time. Not only did we have to rescue a Tacoma off the side of the cliff, we got up there and the snow was still on the ground. The alpine air was so fresh. And we got up to the top, guys, and that view was just gorgeous. It was just such a fun trail. It provided some challenges because the Jeep in a stock form, you have to climb up some of those rocks. It can do it, but you just got to choose your line a bit. It was slippery. It was cold. It was beautiful. It took my breath away. It was what I imagined Colorado to always be. It's just Rocky Mountains, snow-covered tundra, and 15 degrees in the middle of July. At 12,800 and some feet. It was beautiful. And that image has stayed in my head since we've been there. Every day I think of it, and that's why it's my number 1 trail. Going with that, let's go to my top 3 views. And starting with number 3, I kind of harped on it in, my top 3 trails, but Chicken Corners. Guys, the views out there, they are mind-boggling. They are life-changing. You'd never think it's such an easy trail. It's only rated at a 2. And it's so simple that, buggies go out there. You could take some other forms of stock off-road vehicles out there. And it is beautiful. It's so easy. It's so beautiful, though. People tend to overlook it. And guys, that canyon, that painted canyon, and to see it, it was awesome. Absolutely awesome. And I don't know, when I think of Moab, when people tell me they're doing a trip to Moab, the first thing I think of is chicken quarters. It just pops in my head. There's other trails out there, but it just pops into my head with that view because it is just that the essence of Moab. Next would be out in Moab once again, and it would have been from my last trip, on my last day out in Moab before coming home in September, was Hell Roaring Rim. Roaring Hell Rim. I don't remember which one it is. How it's called. But that trail, out to the top of the canyon overlooking the Green River and where Hajo Canyon is, beautiful. Beautiful. The whole trail going out there, you've got nothing but views. You got flat plains that you can see where that just drop off in a canyon sticking out in the distance. You can, and you just kind of wigwam your way through there. And you just end on this strip that takes you out to the edge of the canyon. And you're on it, and it's flat. It's grass, just kind of like what's behind me, minus the lake. It's just grass, and you just drive, and then you hit these big, huge rocks, and you kind of just go between them, and boom! Massive view of the canyon, and you can park right on the edge of the canyon. It was beautiful, and I'm sad to say that it is gone now, because they have closed those trails in Moab, but I am glad I got to experience it before it went, because that was a beautiful view. It was so cool to see where I'd been days before, and the river rolling through there. It was so gorgeous. And finally, my top view, which you'd think is going to be Engineer Pass. It's not. Though Engineer Pass was absolutely gorgeous and it was breathtaking, my favorite view of the year was actually from Red Cone. That drive up the spine of the mountain and getting to see it just up the side of the mountain all the way to the top, and at the top you just have this view of the Rockies for miles, the trails going down in different directions, and you're sitting there at 12,000 feet. Freaking breathtaking. It was cold. There was a little bit of snow, not much, but you just had that alpine road that you just got to take. The area of Red Cone has some beautiful scenery out there. And that was my favorite all-time top of the mountain view. Though Engineer Pass was beautiful and gorgeous, this took the cake just because of the day. The day I just went up there, it was nice and clear. It was only me. That the trail leading up to it, that was gorgeous. And because there was no one else out there, I got to experience it all myself. It was awesome. Now, my top 3 campsites. As I said before, I camped in some cool places, some awesome areas. But there are 3 that stood out the most. And number 3 was that campsite at the start of Cinnamon Pass, coming off of Engineer Pass, where me and my dad camped, and we had that creek flowing through there. And we were tucked up in the back of the trees, and it was perfect, guys. The creek was so loud, it just was awesome white noise. It was a very beautiful spot. It was large enough you could have sat a couple tents in there, or a trailer or two, and it was just really nice and peaceful. You couldn't hear the road, which honestly was less than a quarter mile away, the little dirt county road that takes you to the start of Cinnamon Pass. You couldn't hear anything, and it was just us out there. And it was awesome, and it was just beautiful camp spot altogether. I absolutely enjoyed it. That was great. My next would be my last trip to Moab. That second area on the cliffs that I camped at was beautiful. Now, as you guys know, in my last trip to Moab, 2 of my campsites were kind of right there on the edge of a cliff. Got the view out of the canyons and things like that. They were kind of just, I was looking on Gaia, saw a clearing, and thought that could be a really cool campsite, and they both turned out to be. But the second one, out there in the middle that jetted over, and you could just see the canyons all the way out, and you could see arches and the national park out in the distance. Oh, guys, beautiful. And it was nice weather. It was a big open area. I had a little bit of protection. Oh, it was awesome. And you wouldn't think of that spot because the trail that takes you out there is, it's kind of a faded trail. It's not one that's traversed very much, and when you get out there, that is the reward. That was beautiful. And finally, there's kind of a theme going here. My number one spot was chicken corners. I camped out there on that corner, guys, on that last big huge turn, and had that entire place to myself all night. The river running below, the canyon, not a soul in sight. Had that beautiful sunset, peaceful quietness of nothing, and then getting up in the morning and driving out of there with the sun rising. Oh, that was my favorite camp spot of the year, just because it was in a very beautiful area. Though it's a, it can be a popular trail for some of the easier trail goers, there was no one out there, and it was the middle of Easter Jeep Safari. No one. It was awesome. I can't tell you just how gorgeous it was. And now for my top mod of the year. My favorite modification I've done to the Jeep. The thing that, I'm proud of all the mods that I've done to the Jeep, and I love them all. But the one I am proudest of the most is my platform and kitchen system that I built with my dad. Guys, that made my life at camp 10 times easier, and it made packing up for a trip 10 times smarter, because everything is organized, put in a place, and I'm not worrying about digging through a tote to find anything. That is my favorite mod of the year. I love the new wheels and tires. I love the lift. I love all the little extra accessories that I've added to the Jeep that have made certain things of my life easier, like mounting the traction boards on the outside and having things hooked up to the auxiliary switches to make life easier. That's great. But to have that platform system and kitchen set up, I have more storage now. Things have a permanent home. That is my favorite modification that I have done for the year, and I'm very proud of it. Because in the video, go check out the video, guys. You can see just how easy it is to build your own platform system and how much cheaper it is. The link is going to be in the description below. There'll also be a little tag that pops up here on the screen. But that is my favorite, by far, modification I have done. It just is. Well, guys, it's been a very fun year, hasn't it? I've taken you guys so many different places. I've had an absolute blast, and it has been great. But with the closing of one year, a new year begins. And as you guys will, remember, and if you don't, get ready, because I'm about to go hit a ton of different backcountry discovery routes. I've got them all marked out. The video link in the description below with the update video that I did that has the schedule on it for when I'm going to be there. There might be some modification to it, just a little bit, but not a whole lot. Just because of a few other things that popped up that I'm like, ooh, I might have to do that also. So maybe some shifting of dates a little bit. But I have all these different backcountry discovery routes, guys. That's what we're going to go and tackle this next year, along with a few other trails. Don't get me wrong, we'll have our day trips, we'll have some Moab adventuring, we'll have a couple other things here and there, but guys, gear up, because I am pumped. Having knee surgery, and for 4 months now, I have not been on a trail, haven't been able to do anything but rehab. I am biting at the bit. The bit has almost been chewed away, because I am ready to go, and the new year hits, I'm hitting the ground running, guys. It is go time. I am excited to get out on the trail again. So stay tuned and get ready for those, guys, because it is going to be awesome. And like before, if you guys would like to join me, go to that video, check out the dates if you guys can make it. Just private message me, Instagram, Facebook. There's always a way. And let me know. You're more than welcome to join. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, guys. We came this close to my goal by the end of the year, and honestly, guys, I am so thankful to all of you that have subscribed to the channel and has had it grow from where it was to where it is now in that short amount of time. Thank you guys so much. But don't forget to hit that subscribe button, guys. It helps immensely. And if you guys would like to, the link to my Patreon account is below in the description. If you guys want to help support me, besides hitting that subscribe button, guys, it is greatly appreciated. And links to my other social media accounts are in the description below, as as well as a list of parts that I have on the Jeep. I have updated it to include all the new stuff and have deleted some of the old things. I am working on building an Amazon store at the moment, so that link will come a little bit later on. So it's all a lot easier to find instead of a bunch of Amazon links that links all over the place. It'll be a little more mainstream, but that's coming. But thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It has been a fun year. I am looking forward to next year, and I will see you all again in 2024. So take care, guys.